Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Tragedy Girls. Joe, because you know how much we know about teen girls with Instagrams.
It's pretty much our niche, whatever you would call it.
Yeah. In case you haven't gotten enough of Dad Cast over the last couple of weeks, we're coming at you tonight with more. First up, joining me, he's a dad. He's wearing a hat. He's also wearing a drug rug. You know who that means. It's Joe.
We're here to promote our female agenda once more.
That's right. Pro-female agenda. Also a part of that agenda, founding member of the new class. Please welcome Sophie to the show.
Oh, I didn't know that title belonged to me, but I'll happily take it.
Well, you're one of the founding members of the new class. I think that works.
Well, don't take the title away. You already gave it to me.
Yeah. One of it's like assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
And last up tonight, joining us from Hotlanta, Georgia, please welcome High Priestess of Books at Bloody Good Horror, Cece, to the show. God damn it, Cece.
You're
Are you
muted.
She's mouthing, "I'm not muted" on the line, but she is.
I'm not muted. Here, I'll read lips of what she's saying. I'm not muted. I'm not muted. God, I love meth. God, I love Atlanta and making meth.
People definitely call it.
Now
People
she's
definitely
gone.
call it Hotlanta. That's definitely the name.
My God, can you hear me now?
Yep.
No.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. I know you can't see. Okay, is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't
You're
muted.
like,
I don't know what happened.
Can we talk about this admission that you like meth?
Yes, that's like the drug of choice in Atlanta. You
Well,
know?
that I believe.
This
it's
is not
actually-
actually an episode. This is just an intervention.
That's
We're
how-
not even live.
That's how
Oh,
The
good.
Walking Dead
That's
happens.
It's so sweet and kind of you.
Yeah, wow. So there goes the intro music. We're here tonight to review Tragedy Girls, and I gotta say, I am pretty excited about this group of people here tonight. I feel like we've really separated the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, Joe, you know?
I don't know.
All right.
So yeah. Thanks, Joe, for just totally tanking that.
You use a term like that and expect me to be able to run with it?
That's great. Nice work. Really excited. Hey, Cece,
Yes.
you're involved with a magazine,
Yes, I am.
and this magazine has asked us to take part in what I'm going to call a semi-confusing venture. Because
Sure. I mean,
Joe
do
and
you
I
not...
learned over email today that we have no idea what's happening. So why don't you tell us
Yeah.
about it?
Okay.
But we won, so you know.
Did we?
Okay.
Sweet.
So, Grimm Magazine, which comes from anatomyofascream.com, they are releasing their June issue, and their June issue is about slashers. So they are doing a slasher madness bracket, which is sort of similar to March Madness. You just pick your movies and see who has the best slasher. So I don't know what's confusing about
So
it.
two things. One, I don't understand the competitive aspect of it.
Because, well, for BGH, you have two teams. You have the OG BGH and you have the new class. But you also have several other teams. I think Rue Morgue, Faculty of Horror. There's like 7 or 8, maybe 10 teams right now.
Never heard of
So,
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar.
of course.
I didn't
So
know
they all have their brackets as well. And I think it starts on the 7th. And I think the winner is chosen by like the 19th. And the winner gets 6 free issues of Grimm Magazine
Wow.
for their June issue.
Well, the other thing was Sophie informed me that it was supposed to be like the slasher of the movie, whereas we just took it as slasher, like a movie.
Well, I'm sure that you could do it either way. People pick their March Madness brackets based on a lot of different aspects.
Either way, we arrived at the burning, which is clearly the correct answer anyway.
I don't think you're supposed to give it away, are you?
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm highly sure that's not going to win our bracket.
What? Why?
Because from the looks of it right now, that's not what's winning.
Well, we can.
Wait, that's what I'm confused about. Like, who is actually doing the voting, or like, how do you win?
Well, so. Oh my gosh.
It's a very complicated process, and at the end of it, we win.
It's really not. It's really.
I'm not a part
listen.
of the in tally. I'm only a part of the new class tally.
Here's why it's important.
What are we
listen.
That's what I need.
It's really not. It's really not important. It's just funny because Joe came at us over email with this whole thing. He was all gung ho about it, all excited, and then I asked one question, and the whole wall came down. And Joe was like, "Listen, guys, I'm just gonna admit I have no idea what's happening."
Yeah. Why did you pull that thread? That was like, it was the big red, like, don't pull me sign. And you were like, no, I'm going to ask this question.
But I wanted to take the opportunity to just promote this magazine a little bit. So tell me a little bit about the magazine and how you're involved, because it's a pretty new thing.
Yeah, so we put out an issue in February, and that was the very first issue. Valeska Griffiths, who is also a longtime BGH listener, runs anatomyofascream.com, and Grimm is basically kind of highlighting women or LGBTQ writers in horror, and it's a semi-academic, kind of non-fictional, fictional magazine. It's got a whole bunch of articles. I had some comics the first issue, and then some art. I did the painting for the cover of the February issue, and then I did the cover for this June issue. And I have writings in both of them. So
now, is this part of the feminine agenda? I'm gonna need to know.
Oh.
Duh.
It sounds a little like it.
Promoted on a show about tragedy girls with the other danger girl.
It sounds a little bit like it might be. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but
I'm pretty sure we can't repeat "girl" enough for whoever does not like that agenda to stop listening.
But anyway, it's an exciting new venture entry into horror magazine world. Our own Cece is doing artwork for them, so she's involved. So they check it out. Is there a website?
Yes, so you can get the back issue, the very first February issue, which covers cinematic witches. The website is anatomyofascream.com, and you can either get the downloadable PDF digital version, or you can buy a print version, which is print on demand from Blurb. But all of that is at anatomyofascream.com.
Very nice. And I'm sorry that we don't understand your contest. It's just
No.
It's
well,
us.
I'm not running it. I was merely the messenger from one group to the other group, and now I'm like, I probably should have asked some more questions.
Well, to be fair, yeah. When Eric asked me the question, I went back and asked Cece the question, and she had no answer either. So
yeah, listen. What's important is we're participating, because we tend to be, how you say, lazy. So usually when people ask us to do this shit, we're like,
the new school hasn't even started theirs.
Yeah. So
we have.
Joe got on all gung ho a couple days ago. And was like, guys, if we do this one round per day, we can do this. We got this. We can do it by this weekend, and we did it. We're completed.
Perfect.
So there you go.
I'm so excited.
It was all on the Google Doc.
I don't know what I did, but we did it.
Well,
I was like cutting Casey out, like, because everybody else had voted, and I'm like, well, your vote doesn't even matter. Like, the rest of us have already like.
Well, I appreciate it very, very deeply. So thank you.
So there you go.
And I'm pretty sure that they're going to post the brackets weekly. So if any individual would like to play along, I'm sure that you could do that as well.
Cool. Hey, Sophie.
Yes, you can play along.
Hey,
somehow.
what?
Tell me about that.
Joe, shut up! Shut up!
Tell me about the next tweet with BGH.
Sure. So my co-host and I have been having a hard time trying to nail down a weekend in May that we're all available. And then we remembered that Memorial Day is in May. So we're going to have the next week with BGH the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, which means that some of you lucky kids out there will not have to work Monday and will be able to get really drunk with us on Sunday evening. So the movie has not yet been determined, but it will be by next week. So y'all can announce it next week. And as always, there will be a drinking game the Thursday before.
I think that we should have a tweet with BGH while the two Danger Girls are in one household together.
It's the Danger Girls. Here comes the
I
Danger
would be
Girls.
super into that. Well, maybe we'll think about that.
We'll figure this out.
It's gonna be Memorial Day weekend unless
Yeah.
things change.
Okay, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna
Hey-
keep y'all on your toes.
Hey,
That's
Joe.
the end of that.
Joe, what's going on
Yeah.
in your world? I'm over here wondering, do you wash that drug rug, or is not washing it part of the whole
No,
experience?
it's never been washed.
Is
It
that
hasn't.
just like Febreze?
But no, I don't do anything.
Because really,
But
you
I-
gotta. It's pretty. It's a pretty harsh fabric, right? So you want to kind of break it in a
It's-
little bit, right?
It's a lot softer than I remember it being in high school.
I mean, maybe
so,
it's
I don't-
just like new and improved.
Yeah, maybe Baja technology has advanced.
It's like a-
Are you
Okay.
sure that it's not just like the jadedness of your body from getting older that you're like, oh, this is really soft?
Are you sure your skin isn't just old and hard?
It could just be leathery.
That's a
Wait,
good.
I have a question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
Are you watching Jersey Shore?
Yes, I am.
Oh boy.
You've been following the drama that is Ronnie.
Well, yeah. So I think we're still one behind. But he is clearly a hot mess. He's clearly still obsessed with Sammy and has control issues.
Oh no, there's been like recent, like within the last week. Like apparently, so they've had the kid, and then like 3 days later went into like an Instagram feud with each other, him and his baby's mama.
Oh god. Well, so I just saw the episode where he definitely banged that chick from the club,
Yeah.
which
So-
is like,
Yeah.
Apparently, she still had videos of her and her ex having sex on her phone that he found, and she had like little Coke baggies of his that he left in her house.
oh jeez.
And they're now like going back and forth on
Oh.
Instagram.
Can you-
Well, and yesterday they were recording like a Facebook Live video where they were screaming
Yeah.
at each other that definitely ended up with them like getting in a physical fight, and then he took the phone from her and the video cut out.
Yeah, I'll send you all
So
this.
like,
I mean,
that's great.
The worst part about all this is I can't even really enjoy it because they had a kid, and so now it's just sad.
It
but-
is. It's like super
Yeah.
depressing. Like Ronnie definitely has like Coke bloat. Like he's got some
what
stuff
if-
going on up in his head. Like,
Now it's sad, but also Joe, can you send me an article about this because I'd like to check this out.
oh, I've got it all documented.
I'd like to add it to my reading list if that's possible.
Yeah, it's
Joe has one of those walls with like red thread in between. all the
Yeah.
things.
But yeah, it's like
Wow.
I don't know. What I really think they should do is just do the New Jersey Shore with new people. Although I'm pretty sure at this point Seaside will not let them film there, which is why they did the Floribama Shore. But
Well, you know what they're doing is a Jersey Shore esque show based in Staten Island.
even better,
Oh my.
even
It's-
better.
Jeez.
Be amazing.
Can Angelina be involved somehow? Because I would be
Oh.
into that.
I feel like she pops up at some point because I saw in the preview she comes in and she looks nothing like she used to. Like she's had a ton of work done.
I bet.
Well, all the women have like, I guess except Dina, she looks pretty much the same.
A little bit. Yeah, Snooki looks like her. entire
Horrifying.
face is, like
Oh my gosh,
remolded.
she doesn't look like anything
Yeah.
like herself. That's
It's
weird.
It's a whole thing. I love it though. So that's what's going on in my world.
That's
Wow.
exciting. That's like super tantalizing.
What does Evan think of your drug rug, Joe? It seems like somebody might not approve of it.
I was like, what does Evan think of your drugs? Like, what are you saying?
The thing about Evan is he's so nice that he would never like say anything about it. But
Just
Not
behind,
to you.
yeah, just behind your back.
I've got to imagine he's pretty disgusted.
Very nice.
We just recorded, actually, you know, just because we're bullshitting, we just recorded our 100th episode last week.
God,
Awesome.
that's amazing,
friends.
Joe.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Oh,
And
you
then we took
also
a week off.
you were out at got drunk with your coworkers for the first time and sang some Dave Matthews. I heard.
Oh my God! So yeah, this is big news too. Yeah, so I had to go down to Austin. I do work out of the Austin office every once in a while too. So I was down there and ended up going out with a bunch of people that I've never met for the first time. And of course, like we had a few in us. And Dave Matthews comes on, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad. Like I can't stop myself. But then things escalated when one of the guys from Pitch Perfect 3 ended up knowing. Yeah, so. Yeah, if you've seen Pitch Perfect 3, there's this like bluegrass band that's in there.
Uh-huh.
Like the whole idea is like they're on a USO tour, and there's a bluegrass band, and the banjo player is apparently friends with someone that works down in the Austin office. So I ended up hanging out with him for most of the night, talking about Pitch Perfect 3 and bluegrass.
Did you tell him how disappointing Pitch Perfect 3 was? Because it was.
I hadn't actually seen it at that point.
It's not
We
great.
literally, I told him, like, my wife literally picked it up from the library the day that I got down there, and we were going to watch it this weekend.
It's like, he's kind of bummed me out.
It was a little, I felt like it was the same storyline as part 2 or part 1.
No,
like,
it was too, like, I kind of liked, I appreciated how they were trying to change things up, but it's just not a good movie. It's just not good.
I feel like in every one of them, they have a scene where some like famous producer or someone wants to hire just I forget the main woman's name, but like just wants to hire her, and she has to choose between her a cappella group and
I'll tell you what I
Fortune.
really did appreciate is John Lithgow.
With an Australian accent.
John Lithgow with an Australian accent playing like a gangster and
Yeah.
doing weird dance moves. It's amazing. I feel like he just took that role just to be like, fuck it, I'm gonna be weird. It's really good.
It was a bit of a fever dream.
Yeah, that's the best part. Have you guys seen this movie?
No,
That's
I've seen
hilarious.
one or two, but not the third one.
They're so good.
I've only seen the first one.
Complete the trilogy.
Yeah, 1 and 2. 2 is really good. 2 is great.
Yeah.
People are surprised by this, but they're actually like really good movies.
Oh, the first one we rented, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this. This looks stupid. And then 45 minutes in, I'm like, this is great.
You're like
And,
crying by the end of it.
Yeah.
They
just
came
wears you
together. They
down.
came together
I
and
am
they
gonna
won.
miss you when you're gone.
You don't get it. They're gonna be friends for life.
Oh.
Cool, man. Well, this has been great. All right, guys.
Cool.
You
Hey,
Good night.
Joe. We're here to talk about a movie called Tragedy Girls. What are we drinking while we do that?
Beer guts.
Tragedy Girls, a fine feature film about a couple of high school gals who decide they're going to become murderers or whatever. And in honor of their friendship, I picked a beer from the fine folks at New Glarus Brewing. That's up in New Glarus, Wisconsin. And this is their Two Women Lager. So it's interesting. They actually have like a little backstory on their website, which I think is kind of nice, and I'll read it quickly. It says 4,000 years before Christ, Sumerian women created the divine drink of beer. But Viking women brewed it in Norse society. European alewives were so successful at cottage brewing that they were taxed. Artisanal women lost their domination of the daily ritual of brewing during the Industrial Revolution.
Artisanal
and
women.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know
And
that was a
today,
thing.
the brewing trade is controlled by men. The collaboration of two craft companies, both led by women, New Glarus and Weyermeyer Malting, is unique. You hold the result, Two Women, a classic country lager beer with Weyermeyer's flour malt, Bohemian malts, and Hallertau Murphy hops.
Are you? What are you doing?
He's just making up words now.
It is. So pretty much this beer is a collaboration between a female-owned malting company and this brewery, which is also female-owned. And they named it Two Women. So it's a lager, which, you know, most of you have had before. You've got the Sam Adams. A Pilsner is a type of lager. So it's a lighter beer, so really good now that we're kind of hitting the summer months. This one has a little bit of a hop kick to it, but nothing like super crazy. Like I would think like anyone who's opposed to like IPAs and pale ales and that sort of thing would have absolutely no problem with this. And it's like a really good alternative to like a Budweiser. Only comes in at 5% alcohol, so not super high. And the interesting thing about New Glarus, especially like here in the Midwest, is they don't distribute outside of Wisconsin. So they kind of like, they have this huge draw. Like their brewery is amazing. Like if you can make it up there, they have like this huge garden you can kind of hang out in. And you have to come to Wisconsin to get their beer. So you get like a ton of tourists like stopping wherever they can and like picking up their beer because it's super good. Just, you know, you can't get it outside of the state. So if you make the trip out here, I wholeheartedly suggest you pick up anything of theirs you can find. newglarusbrewing.com is their website. And yeah, I think I've rambled enough. So let's call it a day.
Very nice. Thank you for that, Joe. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and review Tragedy Girls.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. Cece, you just got a look on your face.
Oh no, it wasn't to you. It was to the dog.
Wow. I didn't know if maybe you were just getting nervous about the word of the day, but you just like got this. That was like a chill went down my spine.
Oh no, she was standing on the sofa, and I was worried she was about to set foot on the embalming table. That's the coffee table, and it will fold up if she steps on it. So I
Well,
was
duh.
kinda worried.
All embalming tables fold up like that. Everybody knows that.
So that's what happened.
Is that thunder?
Joe, is that your house?
Oh yeah, you guys can hear that?
Holy
What is
shnikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all I hear.
Is
That's
it?
terrifying.
Now it's
Or
better.
I'll mute when I'm not talking.
All right. Hey, Cece,
Yes.
please bring us the word of the day.
All right, so you have to hang on because we're going on a little trip here. But the word of the day is buskin, which a buskin is a knee or calf link boot made of leather or cloth, which is which laces close, but is also open across the toes. And it was worn by the Athenian tragic actors, and they wore them to elevate them higher than the other actors during comedy and tragic plays, which is where we get the word sock and buskin for the two faces of a Greek play, tragedy and comedy. And this movie is both a comedy and a tragedy. So there you go.
Wow. All you had to say was they wear those kind of boots in the movie, and I would have had no idea and just been like, yeah, that's amazing. I swear.
Yeah,
I thought that was
they've
pretty
definitely
good.
been a
I gave
buskin.
you a history lesson.
Wow.
See?
That might have been too smart. Just being honest.
All right, well, next time I won't try to, find a phrase and put it down to one word.
Did you think about tragedy? I'm just throwing
Yeah.
that out there.
Yes, I did. I
Just
went
kidding.
with
Actually thought-
tragedy.
I also suggested
Not
girls
buskin.
and friendship.
Yeah,
John 100% would have gone with tragedy.
Hey, Sophie.
Yeah.
Do we know who directed this movie? Should I look that up quick while you synopsize it?
No, I can tell you it was Tyler McIntyre.
He sounds like a boy
Do you
band.
want to know other things he's done? Because I can get that for you too.
Yes.
Like, not a lot. Oh, he
Joey
did Patchwork.
Tyler-
Did any of you watch that?
What?
what?
I was gonna ask. I looked at the trailer like when we were talking about this. It looks super weird.
Password?
Yes, I did actually watch that.
I've not watched it.
What?
It's,
Hold on. Somebody say the name without everyone else talking.
Patchwork.
Patchwork. Okay.
Yes.
Good lord.
It's basically like a new take on Frankenstein. So I mean, it is definitely a solid like C+ movie, but it's got some good comedy in it. So I wasn't sure, and I watched it at like 3 a.m. and found it rather entertaining. So
All
I
right.
would go. I'd go with it if you got some time.
Sophie, what's this about?
So, Tragedy Girls is a 2017 movie that is about two seniors in high school, Sadie and Michaela, who are best friends and presumably have been best friends for most of their life. And we sort of open with them kidnapping a serial killer and telling him that they want him to teach them how to do what he does. So it becomes apparent very quickly that they are both really obsessed with social media and trying to get likes and follows on their joint social media account. I think they have several that are all called Tragedy Girls, and they're super into killers and true crime. They make these weird videos about different things. And as they become more and more frustrated with their lack of internet presence, I guess, they decide to start creating crime themselves and murdering classmates to try to up their following on the internet. Would you like me to go farther than that?
No, I think that's pretty good. And then things go hilariously out of control. I'll say that.
Yeah.
We can get more into
As
the
they do.
later. We can get more into the later plot later on. Joe, what do you think of this?
I think this episode's gonna be about a half an hour shorter without John synopsizing. which I'm concerned about. I enjoyed this. I think we talked about it over email. Obviously the characters in this and the whole setting is a little outside of my age range at this point. But
What
I
do you
think,
mean, Joe?
you know,
What
but
Joe's trying to say is when he went to high school, that drug rug that he has on right now was in.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they did a really good job of writing this so it didn't really like alienate anyone outside of that age range. Like I had jokingly called it like Junoing it, where I just felt like I had no idea what the hell these kids were talking about. There was
Here's
like
the thing. Sorry, I'm just like the thing with Juno because you brought it over the email too. It's like it's the difference between something feeling genuine and something feeling forced, and that's the
Exactly.
problem. And I actually like Juno, but the if it has a problem, it's that everybody's kind of too cutesy with the language in a way that
Yeah.
doesn't feel like real people would talk like that.
Exactly. And there's a couple moments in this like that, like specifically whenever they kind of hashtag something, like it was a little cringy, but like outside of that, I thought they did a really good job. I thought the two main actresses were super good. Like they definitely felt like they could be like best friends in real life, and I really kind of liked that dynamic. I thought the rest of the cast was really good. Craig Robinson pops up out of
He
nowhere,
literally pops up.
and like his character I thought was great. Like I really liked what they did with that. So yeah, overall I was definitely a fan of this.
Very nice, Cece.
Yeah, so I hadn't really seen anything about it, and I kind of went in with a clean slate, and I really enjoyed it too. I think that if I were younger in this movie and just seeing this movie, I would probably equate it to, my generation Scream. It's not as biting as I feel like Scream is, but they do a really good job of, walking that line of, satirical quips and really balancing that. Like Sophie and I were talking about the technology, because they literally are on their phones the entire movie, and that's actually done really well. So I liked that aspect of it, and like Joe said, all of the actors were super awesome. I really liked the two leads, and Josh Hutcherson kind of makes a cameo, and we were talking about how he's horrible as PETA, and this character.
It's the character of PETA just generally sucks, I think.
Right, but the character that Josh Hutcherson plays in this movie is also really horrible. Like he's like the Matthew McConaughey who comes back riding his motorcycle to the high school.
He's funny though in this.
Yeah,
or the character's funny.
It's funny that they cast him as that because he plays it really well.
Yeah.
And I was really pleasantly surprised, and I enjoyed it. It was good.
Sophie.
So I want to quickly expand on, I think, the idea of the Juno-ish dialogue. The thing that really struck me about this movie is that I think on the one hand, you have movies about teenagers where you have dialogue like that. And then the flip side of that coin to me feels like you have movies about teenagers where it is very clear that adults wrote the dialogue and that
Sure.
no one would ever talk that way.
Right.
And it's very frustrating. And I think we get that a lot in horror, especially horror of this genre that's dealing with social media. And I thought they did a really good job. I know you guys said this, but of making the dialogue feel more natural. It did not strike me as something that was written by a room full of 45-year-old men who were trying to this is what the kids are talking about these days, which I really appreciated.
Hashtags.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really liked that, but I also thought, we can get into this if we want to compare this movie to other movies that are trying to deal with what social media is doing to people, particularly horror movies. I think this movie integrates the technology a lot better, and I think they do really neat stuff. Even movies like, what was it, The Shallows with Blake Lively, which is not about technology, I think integrates technology in a way that feels really clunky and awkward. And I thought they did a good job of kind of bringing the technology into the story and weaving it in without making it feel forced or fake. So yeah, I was a big fan of this movie, and it looks really pretty. The color palette is awesome, and there's a great sequence towards the end with a lot of black lighting and neon, which I thought was really awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, I like as I get away from it, like I watched it last night and kind of have a little time to think about it. I really think I kind of love this movie. It's a lot of fun. There's a great energy to it. I think it's written really well. The two leads, just to echo what everybody said, are fantastic. And I think the fact that the dialogue and all the social media stuff does come off so well is just really a testament to how good they are with it. And they both feel really really natural and confident in their delivery. Craig Robinson shows up out of nowhere and ends up actually being a really funny character. And he executive produced this movie apparently, so he was apparently pretty involved in it, which you see. I didn't notice until the end credits. You see it pop up. The Scream comparison is interesting, right? In some ways, like I think there's two reasons you might say that. One is obviously you've got kids being murderers, right? Even though you're aware of it from the beginning here, you have it's referencey, horror movie referencey, but I actually think it rides a pretty fine line. Like Scream is actually much more referencey than this movie is.
Sure. I think I kind of mean it in the terms of, they're trying to take, like Sophie brought it up, like it's more similar to Scream 4, where they're trying to kind of make a little bit of a snarky comment about social media, but also really leaning into social media and really accepting like that's a huge aspect of their life and how they kind of want to interact with everybody.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like specifically like horror movies though. Like as
Right.
far as being like, Scream being like, oh, Wes Carpenter flick, like
oh, for sure.
which in
well,
the
yeah,
90s
they reference like podcasts and
which in the 90s that shit was really mind-blowing. So I think what this movie does, which is smart, is it pays lip service to a little bit of that, but it's
Right.
not over the top. Like there's actually a really funny recurring joke about Dario Argento, and like there's somebody's named Carpenter something along the way, but it's like it's not, they don't like punch you in the face with it over and over.
Well, no, and that's what I mean. Like I think that they're definitely not trying to be this generation Scream, and I appreciate that they wrote a really smart movie. It's just that I can see the similarities. And I mean, I love Scream. Scream's one of my favorite horror movies. So I
think it's a
have that
favorable
affinity for
comparison.
it.
I think it's a good. I think the ways that this movie is like Scream are all good for this movie.
Yeah,
Like I'm not
for
trying
sure.
to.
And
I'm not trying to shade
I wish
it.
I had saved it, but the two main characters are actually named after famous horror directors. But it's like their last names, they're kind of like inverted. But now I didn't save it, so I can't tell you about it.
So the
Yeah,
other
that sounds made up.
Cunningham and Hooper are their last names.
Yeah,
That's it, yeah.
Cunningham was the one I picked up. But it's not like they don't introduce them and really look into the camera and be like, this person's name is Cunningham. Like it's just kind of said offhand, and I would only I just know that name, and because this movie is, I'll come back to the other thing I was gonna say, but this movie is like very reverent to Friday the 13th specifically. Like there's actually musical cues in this movie that I think are very clearly modeled after Friday the 13th. And a lot of the way the atmosphere is done and stuff feels reminiscent. The other comparison I'd make to Scream is that both movies are in some ways like meditations on the desensitization of youth to violence.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And, in Scream, it's about horror movies doing that. Here, it's about social media, which actually feels really relevant, I think, in a lot of ways. And the main difference being that, like, Scream puts a really fine point on making the judgment, right? There's a literal scene where Henry Winkler goes off on these kids about their like he calls them their like thieving, whoring generation and blah 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 and like all this shit. They never say that in this movie, right? That's kind of one of the most fascinating things to me about it is these girls are super evil. They fucking murder people. They have zero empathy about any of it. It's all about getting the attention from social media. That's all they care about. But the movie, in either characters' observations or the moral at the end of the story, plot-wise, like there's never a judgment placed on them in any way. There's no consequences really, which is kind of a spoiler alert. But like, I find that aspect really interesting. So it's there, but you're left to apply your own lens to it and decide how you want to judge them as characters. And like, I find that really interesting. And also, I don't know why I felt like I wanted something to step some aspect to step in and be like, this is really fucked up, huh, guys?
Well, you get a little bit of that with the teacher. Like, there's one part where she kind of snaps on the two of them just constantly being on their phone, but it's very much like a sort of 30-second quip, and then they just walk out of class, and you realize that like this is bigger than like her morals, and the entire school is kind of behind them at this point. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of spun out of control.
Sophie, you made a really good comparison too, I think, over email to Scream 4, which really took the Scream formula and talked about this thing, right? Like this, how the new
Right.
generation is obsessed with the notoriety.
Right. Well, and I think so. You talked about there being some sound cues to Friday the 13th. I think this movie has some really interesting visual cues to other movies. So there's a very clear Halloween reference that, without spoiling, a guy goes out a window and then they go look out the window and there's nothing on the ground, and it's almost shot just like it. There's a death later on in the movie where they're out marching, protesting that the cops aren't doing what they should be doing or whatever. And feeling like, okay, well, there's all these murders happening, the cops haven't caught anyone, and they're feeling very righteous, and then they come across a body that is impaled on a light pole or a flagpole, which I don't know why, and this might have just been me, reminded me a lot of the death of the publicist in Scream 4, when they throw Alison Brie off the roof of the parking garage and she lands on the kind of like right in front of this big crowd of people.
See, I thought that was like straight out of Cannibal Holocaust.
It is. It's
like,
it's Cannibal
Or I
Holocaust.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the way that she's like impaled on the pole.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
saw that.
one that I'm
I
not
got that.
thinking
I got
of.
that one. That was me. I got
but
that.
yeah, it's
Way to go,
it's a
Joe.
it's a very it's a very reverent movie in that way. The love for the genre, I think, comes through in those subtle ways. But like subtle, that's kind of what's nice about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also
for sure.
it's like surprisingly funny. I find with a lot of times with horror comedies, I'm like pretty underwhelmed by the comedy part of it,
Right.
and they're mostly like kind of cutesy, and you're kind of like, huh, like you just giggle a little bit. I actually was like really surprised how much I laughed out loud at stuff happening.
And I
in
think
this
a lot
movie.
of that, though, is a testament to how great the two leads are. Like, their chemistry is really,
Yeah.
really magnetic. Like, I think the way they deliver their lines and just, the way they kind of handle their characters really helps carry the movie, because it is well written, but I'm not sure everybody would have delivered it as crisply or as in such a balanced way that they do.
Are they? Does anyone like? Are they actual teenagers or?
So they were born in like 94, so they're like early 20s.
Oh, because I mean, like, I believed them as
Yeah,
like, high school.
well,
Joe, this reminds me, Joe, how old did it make you feel when the memorial said RIP 2000 to
She was born in
2017, and I was like,
2000.
oh
Yeah.
fuck. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
Yeah.
It made me feel old, so I was
I had
like,
to, like,
oh god.
I had to like take a knee and like walk around the room.
But I think that I don't know what else is Sadie. No, which one is one of them is Negasonic Teenage Warhead, right, from Deadpool, but I don't
Yeah.
know what
That's
the other
Sadie.
one. Sadie. Okay.
The other one was in X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'll have to go
And
back.
fun
then.
fact, the guy that plays the serial killer who they kidnap, who has the most unfortunate name for someone who's famous in real life, because his real life name is Kevin Durand.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, bummer, man.
He-
You could have gone with something else. He apparently played a superhero in some Fox superhero TV show.
And he was also in The Strain, and he was in like Smoking Aces. Like, I really liked
Yeah.
him a lot, and I wish
yeah,
like
he's great.
I
He
liked
looks
him.
wish he had
like
a better name.
he looks like
Well,
a sweaty murderer, that guy.
Yeah.
He does look like a sweaty murderer.
What was with his like jaw thing going
Well, I
on?
think they were just trying to do like it was like a nod to like how most serial killers in movies are like deformed in some way, or they have some sort of like
I loved
visual.
how that interplay between those characters and him were like some of my favorite moments in the movie, and
Yeah.
a lot of the laughs that I got. And then it's great because that character is almost a side thing for most of it, but then he becomes really relevant later on, and there's this whole stretch that I almost wish was more of the movie that turns into like an actual slasher and has some tension to it, which is really nice.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, I kind of wish that we had gotten more of him. I mean, I liked the way they did it, but I just like him as an actor and would have really liked to have seen more of that dynamic.
There's
Yeah,
just,
I mean, I think if I had one complaint, it would be the same thing. Like, there were certain parts where, like, they would kind of go back to, I mean, we're not giving anything away, like they kidnap him right at the beginning, like they would go back to like watching him or interacting with him, and like I almost forgot that he was a part of this movie. Like
Yeah.
it's like,
Also,
oh yeah, we still
he-
have this.
I don't understand how, if he's tied up, I don't understand how he was supposed to get the food that they rolled in on the floor. That doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me.
That was a question.
I don't know.
Right?
Maybe he was just supposed to like fall first on the floor, and
Don't make no sense.
I don't know.
Don't make no sense.
Yeah,
There is a
they
lot
are
of
teenagers.
sort of like loose ends or like
Yeah.
questions left with this. Like even we won't give away the ending, but like there's a pretty big event that happens, and they're the two that are kind of left standing. But there's no like sort of questions as to why they're sort of still there. Like it's, and even the whole like them sort of becoming popular thing is like the idea that they have this website with videos and you know they're on Twitter and everything, and like they're supposed to be like they're trying to bring to light that there's like this big conspiracy that they're trying to cover up, that there's a slasher in the town, or like the cops are in this. But like in every video, they're kind of like laughing and smiling and chuckling as they're talking about like somebody that just got like murdered the day before. But like nobody's kind of questioning that. Like there's a few things where I was like a
Well,
little
they're not.
like sort of
they're
head
not.
scratchy.
They haven't watched a lot of CSI. Like they're
No.
not very careful about the forensics of what they're doing. Like this scene, which is actually an awesome scene. It's this murder scene in the tech shop or whatever, which
Yeah.
which
That was
made
a
me
good
just
scene.
laugh out. Like that was a great, funny ass scene. But like at one point, one of the things that they weapons or whatever, she's gripping it. Her hand's bloody and she's gripping it with no gloves on. And then she just
Yeah.
drops it at the scene and walks away. And never is there any talk about like, hey guys, maybe we should look for prints at these scenes.
Oh, they're like all
Yeah.
over. Like there's the scene in the gym where they're just like throwing everything
Yeah.
and like they're using their bare hands. Like yeah, like there's a lot of
Like,
like
it's
I
just silly.
feel
It doesn't ruin the movie, but like all you had to do was write a thing in your script that says is wearing gloves, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, but I think also not I don't disagree with you guys, but I think to kind of counter that, it works in their favor that there was already another serial killer who was kind of active, because it is
right, but they don't
I
know.
think they could have been more explicit, but they sort of set it up at the end that like the way that he ends up at the end of the movie, presumably they must have said like, oh well, we found him doing this and we killed him because he had a knife in him, which he wouldn't have done to himself.
Right.
So I guess my presumption is this like small town sheriff's department is like, oh well, clearly he did all of these, and
Yeah.
that's why, you know.
I
I'm
guess
not
but
saying
there
that
was
you're wrong. I just think that you know.
Don't
there was a
defend this.
pretty
There's
big
not that whole
period
time
in between like the first kill and when we sort of had the conclusion. So like what were the cops doing in between those? Like
Eating donuts? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
Trying to find this guy because presumably they think
Yeah.
he did all the things, right?
It's not. I mean,
like
it's,
they don't know that he's tied up in like
It's-
a grain silo.
it's not a huge deal. It's kind of just like it's a nitpicky thing that kind of goes on.
Yeah.
yeah,
I have
exactly.
a bigger
Like,
problem
ruin it
with
for
the fact that this movie's like an hour and 40 minutes long.
a
Like
little long.
90 minutes, dude. It's not hard. 90
little long.
minutes.
Lord.
I will
That's it.
say, and I mentioned this
The
over
only
email.
exception for that is like if you're Stanley Kubrick and he's dead. So sorry, guys.
He is.
I could have cut down a little bit on like the childhood flashbacks. I
Yeah,
think I didn't really need
that
all
part.
that. It's like you could just say that you were friends when you were little. I don't need like flashbacks of little girls like dancing and braiding their hair.
And that's the thing, like I kind of talk about it in the email, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but because it really wasn't that big of a deal. But it's like we didn't need that aspect of it. Like we see they're friends, and that's great that they just have this super weird bond that they both want to be killers or they're both into true crime, like whatever. But I mean, them like trying to humanize them by giving them flashbacks, I was just kind of like, I don't know. You could have just leaned into them both being super weird, like psychotic girls,
Mm.
but
Right.
I did like the fact that, and this is weird, but so the blonde gal, I forget what her name was in this. There's definitely like this dynamic that one is very upper class and the other one is like lower class, like lives in a trailer court. But I kind of like the fact that they didn't give them any sort of weird backstory where like one was abused or like they had any
Right.
sort of thing, even to the point where like I've never seen a horror movie where someone lives in a trailer court and the father isn't like an abusive alcoholic. Like they made her father just like a nice normal guy and they happened to live in a trailer. Like I kind of loved the fact that they didn't do anything like super
Well, right.
cliche
There's
like that.
absolutely no reason like given for them being the way they are. They just are that way, and they've always
Yeah.
been that way, and they knew like from
Yeah.
the moment they met each other that that's what they wanted to do. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, they kind of give a little bit like one kind of egged the other one on, but like it was more just something's
I
wrong
just
in their
like
head, so
I
that's why
find
they
a
did
movie
this.
like this super fascinating from like a from an ethical standpoint because I just like I guess you're just I mean most movies are like this, but because no judgment is given, like really it's all just up to you and your lens, right? Like
Yeah,
you could watch this movie as a psychotic person or like a person with zero empathy and be like, this is great. These guys are
yeah,
really great friends. It's great. Because they're
they
also
speak to me.
they're presented as the main characters, right? So like you're going to root for them in some sense, even if you feel weird about it. You know what I mean?
It is an interesting like you're watching this and you're kind of exactly like you said, like you're rooting for them, but then like it clicks in your head again, like oh yeah, they murdered like 8 people, like they're
It would
not
be yeah, it
good
would be like
guys.
if like Stu and the other dude's name I can't remember in Scream were
Billy.
like yeah, were like the
Billy.
main characters that you followed the whole time and you knew they were murderers and you were rooting for them to murder
Yeah,
Nev Campbell, right? Like that's kind of like what it would be like.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I don't know. It's a weird thought experiment, I guess.
hmm yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thinkins, how's it work?
I also like I have this twinge now that I hate where I can't watch a movie like this without thinking about kids watching it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean, Joe?
But like 4-year-olds or
Well, I just generally like it this kind of thing makes me nervous now in a way that I hate. Like it's just gonna create little kid murderers. Isn't that the
I guess I get
worst?
that.
Isn't that the worst that I think that way?
I mean, I watched it with my 6-year-old, and
She did
You know,
okay.
she laughed at all the right parts.
Yeah.
I can't help it that she popped the head off of your, Texas Chainsaw Massacre doll.
Yeah, that's Prince Eric now.
I want
Yeah, that's right. It's Prince Eric.
I do want to give a shout out to Craig Robinson for his performance during the gym scene
He's listening.
where he's running around and they're like hucking weights at each other. I thought that was pretty good.
He was really good. Like he had a very small part, but I thought he was really good.
He was
It's-
great.
I mean, it's so random too. It's almost better to not know he's coming because you're like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I really liked and she had a small part too, but the teacher, who was kind of like the one like, what the fuck is going on in this place, but like not over the top. I liked her character a lot.
It's also we didn't mention it's really gory.
Oh yeah,
Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
kind of a lot of
Yeah.
my favorite moments and biggest laughs were like really ridiculous over the top death scenes.
yeah. I mean
Yeah.
the scene that you talked about in the like wood shop, like for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and Craig Robinson's
Yeah.
demise is pretty gnarly too.
It's a funny thing though, where like so those scenes are silly. Well, like the shop scene is silly, right, and just kind of fun, and it's gruesome. But then there's a lot of like just dark ass stuff in this movie. That's kind of the other interesting thing that I like about it. It shifts back and forth between this goofy tone to just being like pitch black, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of just like stabbing, like just guttural stabbing and done in
Yeah.
such a flippant way that it's like I actually I had moments in this movie where I'm like this is really dark in a weird
Mhm.
I think that the juxtaposition of tones is an interesting aspect of it.
I was thinking
Yeah.
the same.
Definitely, and I think that's what works for it best is that it's balanced really well.
All right, I guess you guys are done. Would
Yeah. Oh, a while ago.
would you recommend this movie, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sophie,
Yeah, definitely.
Cece,
For sure.
and do we know is this like a last year thing? It's the 2017.
It is. I'm super bummed because it definitely would have been on my top 10.
Yeah, I would have put it on my top
most
10.
years I would have said yes, but I would have to look at my top 10 because last year was stacked.
Yeah, I don't know if this would have made mine. Like I enjoyed it, but I don't know if it would have been.
I think if this was this year, I would definitely be slotting it into the list, Joe. So you just
Do you want me to go back?
No,
and
it's fine.
Well,
No,
maybe we should consider allowing it on the 2018 lists because
Listen.
it
No,
didn't
no.
get.
I was gonna
to
say,
be
it didn't
released
get a
until
wide- yeah.
2018.
that would cause
That's
not-
chaos.
I'm not opening up that can of worms with Joan.
All right, yeah, no. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Eyes are red, eyelids are blue, but the iris is the flower
you can run from Suspiria. You can hide from Suspiria. Suspiria. But you cannot escape. Suspiria. The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria are the first 92.
Hi, this is Daniel Roebuck from Everything You've Ever Seen on Television, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Back in the house. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. First up, and only one up actually, is Danny.
Oh, Danny.
Danny says, when Mark said on last week's show that there were only 2 comments congratulating Schnars and the new baby, I remembered that I commented, so I thought there couldn't have only been one other person. He must be exaggerating how few there were. So I looked back, and we have in reverse order. Number 1, me going off on Schnars' Instagram post saying this was his 3rd and final child with, so by saying the final time, he just cursed himself to end up with like 10 more kids somehow, right? Like in some sort of Ealing Studios comedy scenario, an entire orphanage, he is the slumlord and will close it down, and the fine print will say that all the unadopted children instantly become Schnars' children. No takebacks.
Whoa.
The second comment was Casey saying, would have been a whole lot cooler had he worn his Dr. Herbert West costume. And that was fucking it.
Mm-hmm.
For comparison, that same channel has a discussion about the upcoming gender-swapped remake of the Kurt Russell comedy Overboard going on right now. That is at least 11 comments deep and counting.
Oh God.
I don't know if you guys talked about this in the last
That's
episode.
Joe's fault.
This is his 3rd kid, all right? Like, I'm not buying him a fucking gift.
Congratulations, you're fertile.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just fishing for compliments now, like, do something else, all right? Just keep it in your pants.
I think it's impressive.
But does it have like diminishing returns? If they start having more, will you be more impressed? Is there a
like
point
7?
where it goes back up? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
After one, every time you have one, it's more of just what the fuck are you thinking? Like,
Jesus.
Anyway, so he finishes up.
Anyway.
So congratulations to Schnars on the birth of Jim Bob III. Hugs and kisses, Library O Congress. That's it for emails. That's the only email we needed today. We actually did go in deep on the Overboard remake, which I didn't even know was happening, and apparently stars
Anna Faris, right?
Anna Faris, yeah, which like it looks super low budget and cheap looking.
well, ever since she got dropped by Chris Pine.
Oh my
Oh, they
Chris
did
Pine.
break up, didn't they? And they had a kid too.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, he's gone like super Jesus-y too, so
Oh,
I don't
really?
know who's got worse than this.
Lame.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Oh, I don't know a whole lot about either of that, so cool. Cool.
Should we do tweets or something?
Yeah. What's on Twitter, Joe?
Just going with flow here.
All right, we use 2 hashtags. First up, if you're listening to an older episode and hear something that tickles your fancy, you can use the hashtag BGH Classics, which, fun fact, I point this out every once in a while, is also the same hashtag that our local outdoor theater here uses for their classic episodes. So, like, randomly those get mixed in also, and I find kind of interesting. Let me know, because I wasn't on last week. Let me know if you guys have read this already. But first up from That Baseball Joe, and it's a quote from Eric, news writer, Polish man. That's it. Joe's Dracula voice.
Joe's.
I'm confused. I'm confused about what we're going for here.
I think that maybe you then chimed in just singing Dracula.
Yeah, all right.
You know?
Yeah, it's from Lords of Salem, episode 249. I'm sorry I ruined that for whatever you were going for. And then we got another one from that baseball Joe. Yeah, this one I get. You have to hit Control C and then Control D. That was me. And then Eric responds with, then you Control S to save his work. And then Mark wraps it up with, you can Control S my D right now.
I think that we were making fun of Mark for being slow on some website stuff. And
Yeah,
we were just
yeah.
explaining to him how easy it is for him to just do it.
And then we got one from Mi Corazon, Mi Amor. This one might be one of my favorites. And Mark requested that we do it in some sort of voice, but I don't have the effort to put into that. It is a quote from Eric. Says, Mark, why don't you just go cuddle puppies somewhere, okay? This is a man's podcast. Go look at cat pictures on the internet. Go look at twee things. And then Mark responds with, am I getting kicked off of the show right now?
The funny thing is, I can't for the life of me remember what that. I mean, obviously it was like hundreds of episodes ago. It had to have been a joke, but there with no context. I just have no idea what I was talking about.
Well, that's what kind of makes some of these fun. But yeah, that was from episode 250, Maniac.
That was before we got on board with the feminist agenda.
Yeah, well, it
Man,
really
damn, those feminists ruin everything.
It's true.
wasn't that long
Jeez.
ago, to be honest. Except from that baseball Joe. And this is from Mark. You don't have to get picked up by everyone that asks, Mark. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Joe. Let's be honest. You don't have to get picked up by everyone that asks Mark's BGH's wife? No clue. No clue what you're getting at here. I'm sorry.
Do they mean like physically picked up?
I guess.
This is going.
What does it say
great.
what it was from?
I was going to say, was that from when Mark got picked up at Horror?
By Evan?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
This is episode 346 of The Visit. So, no, I think
No,
this
I
is
think it was probably about how in the beginning of that movie, the kids just go with those two old people that don't turn out to not be their grandparents.
I get it. I guess. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ruined this for you.
My answer is
Joe.
better.
Remember that guy shoved that poopy diaper in that kid's face?
Ugh, it's awful.
All right, we got a few from Skizbot because these other ones are going so well. This is Casey. Casey, I'm calling shenanigans on my 8-year-old daughter. Thanks to her, I've got the goddamn Fraggle Rock song stuck in my head.
Yeah, so
that is
we were talking about that because Casey's daughter just turned 18, if you want to know how long we've been doing this show.
Gosh.
That was
Wow.
episode 41, Postal. Which I think was also the first time that there was big shenanigans on Eric for making everybody watch a movie that really wasn't horror.
It's a great movie. It's great.
Another one from Skidspot. This is from Fancy Pants Schnars. I can't Twitter on my typewriter. That was episode 50, Ginger Snaps.
It's on brand.
Yep.
He's still, you know what?
then
I
we
mean,
got
that's the
one-
funny thing about Schnorrs. He doesn't use Twitter. He's not on Facebook. I don't even think he has a Facebook account. He sort of
No.
uses Instagram sometimes, like he'll Instagram pictures of the kids or whatever, but that's about it.
He's on there.
And he barely uses Slack unless you ping him. So there you go. He's really engaged.
He's a jago. He's too busy making babies, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, one more from
Get your
Skizbot.
priorities straight, Schnars.
This is good. This is Eric. I'm officially the skinniest Newell brother again, so I'm pretty excited. For the rest of the episode, I'm going to refer to Mark as Fatty McButterpants. All right, Mr. Fatty McButterpants, bring us the Google report. And then Mark simply replies, "Fuck you."
That's great. I am still the skinniest, so there you go.
Oh yeah.
How do you guys measure this?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Do you like compare your weights regularly, or do you?
I
what
can
is
I
happening?
tell.
I think
That
everyone
seems
can.
biased.
All right, then last one from Mi Corazon, Mi Amor again. I think it should just be Andy naked, and the spoiler alert can be covering his junk. And that was our own Philly's Femme on creating a BGH spoiler alert graphic for the live feed.
There has been a lot of discussion about spoiler alert graphics that never came to fruition.
Episode 343, Sinister 2. Can you guys still hear me?
There's a
'Cause
golden idea for you. So
The hellstorm is happening outside my house right now.
I can hear it, but it's fine. You can continue.
All right. I'm gonna sleep great to those dulcet tones.
I mean, it sounds a little more like Twister happening outside, so.
It's the Midwest. We also use the hashtag AskBGH every week if you want to send in a question or just make a stupid comment. First up, and I no way mean that this is a stupid comment, but at DB Paul, he says, "Wouldn't it be awesome if Bruce Campbell did a cameo in Game of Thrones?"
What?
Oh, Eric is personally offended.
Ugh, first Ed Sheeran. Now this.
Are you
That
guys
might
watching
be the only way I
Westworld?
watch Game of Thrones again.
You know there's going to be some random, like, in the last season, some random,
Oh yeah.
Walker, like, just random people as zombies because they want to be on the
Because
show.
like 2 dudes from Mastodon were walkers the last.
Yeah, like, there's definitely going
like,
to be some of that shit going on.
Yeah, I think it'll just be a lot of it.
Which is fine if it happens
Yeah.
fast.
Also, Joe, to answer your question, yes, Westworld is great.
I just I don't I'm
No,
I'm,
you
I'm
don't like
in
it?
I do.
I'm in a Game of Thrones where I feel like I have to watch it, but I'm not sure I actually enjoy it.
So I enjoyed Westworld first couple episodes, and then I'm almost to the end of the first season, and I stopped watching because I'm like, I don't even think this show knows what's going on. Like it's almost it's too ethereal for me. Like at the point in the season when I feel like they should be giving me something, they're not, and that really started bothering me, so I stopped watching. But now I see the previews for the second season, and I'm like, this looks sweet as hell, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot of commitment for something I may not enjoy.
Yeah, that's my problem. I don't know. We'll see. I watched the first episode of season 2, and I had no idea what the hell was going on.
I feel like there's a lot. In other words, like, especially seeing where it went at the end of season 1 or having a vague idea now, I feel like there's a ton of filler in season 1.
Oh, well, for sure. I mean, I think that there's at least 2 episodes that are nothing but like people just walking to different, ends of the actual park. So I mean, but it's kind of like there's several episodes of Game of Thrones that does that too. It's just like they want to draw that shit out.
Don't you
fucking dragons.
Don't you
How do they work? We got another one from BDD Paul. He asks, honestly, wouldn't it be awesome for Eric to do a faux commercial for his favorite brand of probiotics? Casey's intro, feeling bound up like a kidnapping victim.
I mean, I could just talk about regular real life probiotics because they're great.
Yeah.
I don't know the brand I use though, but it's coconut. It's fermented coconut water.
That does sound nice.
It's good.
Then I think you totally should find out what brand it is and share that.
I'll send you a link. You can get it at the Whole Foods.
No, at the Whole Foods. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we get some sort of like
Love it.
sponsorship out of this. Or
Yes.
Then you would really be a dad podcast.
Probiotic sponsorship.
Yeah.
They
I don't
keep
know if
us
you can tell in the
regular.
feed, but my lights are definitely dimming, and we're 100% going to lose power pretty soon. So
Cool.
let's whip through these. Next SBGH comes from Mi Corazon Mi Amor. Has Mark BGH found frosted flake encrusted chicken fingers yet, as mentioned on episode 388, Holidays? If not, we have them in Seattle.
Sounds pretty good.
I don't know. Mark's not here. I assume not. I feel like he would have alerted us to this. Next up from @Skizbot. What was the first band or album that you really got into as a kid? Green Day's Dookie hit me at the perfect age, and it was the first cassette I bought entirely with my own money.
My first full-length cassette was the Black album by Metallica.
Oof, Jesus Christ.
First full length, I remember buying a mixtape of the 69 Boys Tootsie Roll, and
Candy Sweet
That's
as Gold.
awesome.
Let's see your Tootsie Roll.
the song is so good.
So before that, for some reason, and this is definitely a dated thing, but before having that one, I had just a ton of singles.
Yeah.
Which were
Well, he's asking what was the album that your first really got into?
It was transformative.
It was the Black. It was the Black album. I literally listened to only that for a year.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Garbage is Garbage.
Nice.
Yep.
Love it.
I borrowed Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill from my dad and never gave it back. So that would be my answer.
I will show my age and say that Poison's Look What the Cat Dragged In was their first one.
I definitely had Jagged Little Pill on CD.
Oh yeah.
Great album.
It is. It's a really good album.
It still holds up too.
Yeah.
It's
all right,
funny
next
that
up from
it's funny that I didn't become a metalhead, Joe. Like growing up listening to so much Metallica.
I distinctly remember playing Dangerous Toys for you as a youngster, and you were quite tickled pink by them.
What is that? What?
I'll
What?
send it.
What
It
is
was-
this story? Where was this?
This was in when your brother and I went to not like that rec or summer camp that they had at the high school.
Yeah.
And I used to bring my boom box and listen to the Dangerous Toys and all other kinds of like white trash metal.
That's great. I love that
yeah.
story. Oh, that was fun, man. Wreck. It's good stuff.
It was a thing. Next up from @thatbaseballjoe, he asks if Danger Girls is Eric BGH or Eric CC and Sophie, what lineup would be the Tragedy Girl, or what lineup would the Tragedy Girls be for BGH?
It's
I
just,
think it would just be Eric alone
I don't know.
talking about the feminist agenda.
Joe and Evan seem like the tragedy girls at BGH, if I'm being honest.
I like it.
That's actually that's not wrong.
Addicted to drama.
Next up from @Schlockley_grotto. He says, apparently Southern Tier is now brewing a coffee pumpkin stout, or pumpkin. Is this earth-shattering for Mark and Joe, or pretty par for the course?
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, they've done, it's like a cold brew or cold press, they call it, pumpkin, that they put out, I want to say for like the last 2 or 3 years. I have never found it. I would love to try it, because I think it sounds great, but I unfortunately have never had it.
I like me a good cold brew coffee.
Oh, huge fan.
Best is
Big
it's like
fan.
it's actually like incredibly easy to make in your refrigerator.
Well, Schnars, he when we met up in New York, he had like a huge pot of it going.
Yeah. It's great. You don't even really need any special equipment or anything.
You just gotta let it drip, right?
You can just literally just dump
Let
it in
it
the water.
drip.
You can just
Just let
dump
it drip.
grinds into cold water and put it in the fridge if you get the ratio right, and then you just have to sieve it out at the end.
Just let it drip.
Get real fancy. You can put some orange peel in there, Joe.
Oh, that sounds nice. What does that do?
It makes it taste like oranges.
Oh, I know there's some sort of like special like cuts down on the acidity or
No,
something.
it
I guess that
makes
would up it, right?
It tastes like oranges.
Do you I drink a ton of coffee, and like once every 2 months or so, like I find that I've just reached the limit and my mouth just gets like raw and like I have to stop for like a few days.
I can't
You ever-
actually drink
you ever get
coffee.
that?
I can't drink coffee at all anymore, so I'm just on tea. But I daydream about coffee a lot still.
Oof. That's too bad.
It's tough. Yeah. I
all right.
actually, it's funny, Joe, you bring that up since we have time to burn. I was stopped in a Stewart's this weekend and got some coffee,
Oh,
and it was
fun.
burned and terrible, and I got mad because it makes me physically ill when I have it, but I still have it every once in a while
Yeah.
because it's good. But then it was burned.
Stewart's, yeah, I could see that happening. It's funny you
If it's
bring
fresh
that up
though,
because
it's good.
we time hop I like to use just to kind of see, you know, what's gone on in previous years, and it was 2 years ago, I want to say, that we had Mark's bachelor party in upstate. And this was the Sunday that we all left, and it was the first time I took my daughter into her Stewart's for Make Your Own Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah,
That house,
beautiful.
that house was awesome.
Oh, that house is great.
Yeah.
We lost the security deposit because of Mark's vomiting.
I was like, was there a see-through fireplace like in at
No.
the
The
meetup?
Milwaukee house.
Yeah.
Mark vomited so much,
Yeah,
Oh my god.
early in the evening too.
just everywhere.
Joe, was he sort of like that lady on Jersey Shore last week who threw up all over the couch and her hair and
Oh, that
the
was
wall and the salad bowl?
that was the best.
so awful? And Snooki's logic of let me get them so drunk that they can't screw, that way they can't cheat. Just
Yeah, and then she comes on and she's like, "I'm gonna take care of her because I sort of feel like it's my fault," and it's like
100% your fault.
It just
Totally
worked.
your
It just worked on the wrong girl.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Last up from @Rubel. What level of Patreon gets the official BGH Baha? I think that's you gotta come track me down in person. Although my wife has gotten this thing. Have you guys ever heard of a cricket?
Like
Like the
the
bug?
insect.
No. No, it's like this thing. It's like a printer, and pretty much you can print anything you would like. You can make a
Oh yes, yes, yes.
card.
It's like a die cut like
The
a
thing is-
stencil cut.
Exactly. Like she's made like T-shirts for Mia. Like you can make like she makes all her own greeting cards now. Like it's unreal. Like I feel like we
Wait a
could
minute.
make.
How
a
do you make
BGH Baja.
T-shirts? What?
It's so it you buy the pretty much like the not the decals but like this paper that and then it
Yeah.
like dot cuts it
Gotcha.
and then you just like it has like a special. It's not an iron. You don't iron it on. It has like an actual press. So it's not like a shitty sort of iron on that you would have gotten
How
at, like a
expensive is this
silk-
thing?
I don't want to talk about it. Um,
Okay.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, but then like she's making like greeting cards and shit too. Like it's insane. But the point of this is, I feel like there could be a BGH Baja in our future.
Jesus.
And that's it. I apologize to Joe and everybody else whose tweets I butchered tonight. It's been a long week.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. All right, guys. It's only
it.
Wednesday, too. Cool. Check out Grimm Magazine.
Yes, please. And because I mentioned it to everyone else, I found out that the voting is done on Twitter. So the final brackets will be decided, by popular vote. So there you go. So now you
Cool.
know.
Now I totally get it.
Sorry.
Thanks for nothing, guys.
I still don't, to be honest.
It's okay, you'll lose. That's all that matters, Joe.
We don't know what next week is. We do know we won't be in the theater, so we got another video pick, so we'll be pulling from the list. Keep an eye on our Twitter, and you can get that once we release it if you would like to watch along. So there you go. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our show on Tragedy Girls. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
See you later.
Okay, goodbye. Bye-bye.